this meeting to order. Pauline Clark, if you could please proceed with the roll call.
Trustee Friedman.
Present.
Trustee Collins.
Present.
Trustee Klajncar.
Yes.
Trustee Daya. Present. Trustee Babinski.
Yes.
Trustee Rollins. Trustee Broughton.
Here.
Trustee Beach.
Here.
Trustee Wasyliw.
Here. Moved by Trustee Collins, second by Trustee Klajncar that the agenda be approved. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I want to welcome and thank the gallery for coming, and a special welcome to the students from Red River Community College that are here tonight. This is a special meeting of the Board of Trustees to present budget information to the public and receive feedback from those in attendance. The meeting was advertised in the local newspaper, on the division's website, and through all division schools, parent councils, and board advisory committees. The board established the process for preparation of the 2016-2017 draft budget and provided direction to the administration to prepare a budget which would maintain all existing programs and services for students, take care of our school buildings and aging infrastructure, while finding cost savings in non-program areas. Our budgets reflect the changing needs and priorities of the local communities, and then included expanding Winnipeg School Division full-day kindergarten to 9 schools, investing in technology and business systems to enhance efficient management of the division and help control long-term costs. We've also invested in mental health programs, upgrading school security systems, strengthening Indigenous education support, and building trusting relationships between students and Winnipeg Police Service through the School Resource Officer program. The draft budget, including the potential implications for property taxation, has been distributed and posted on our website. Meetings were held during the month with district advisory committees to present the draft budget. Parent councils and board advisory committees are invited to provide feedback to the board by February 26th, and the board will continue to review the draft budget, which brings us to tonight's consultation meeting. The agenda for this evening: first, we will hear from Trustee Broughton, who's the chair of our Finance Personnel Committee, and he'll make a few comments about the provincial funding and the division's draft budget. We'll then have a video presentation, which we prepared on the draft budget for the 2016-2017 school year. Following those presentations, the board will receive delegation and invite feedback regarding the 2016-2017 budget. In order to provide opportunity for everyone to be heard, delegations who registered in advance will be granted 5 minutes to make their presentation to the board. This will be followed by a maximum of 10 minutes for trustees to ask questions. We will then accept questions and or feedback from the floor, with each speaker being granted a maximum of 2 minutes. I now call on Trustee Broughton, Chair of the Finance Personnel Committee. Trustee Broughton.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to our gallery as well for joining us tonight. Just going to make what I've been told are brief comments, but I don't know that they are. We're going to highlight a few of the changes that we're looking at in this draft budget, both in enhancing and redirecting the priorities of the school division. The committee has been working on a draft budget that is aimed at improving student success, aligning resources to needs, and finding efficiencies in business administration. Consideration has also been given to include budget allocations to programs and services enhancements such as full-day kindergarten in 4 additional schools, providing bilingual language support for 3 new language programs, including Cree and Ojibwe, investing in Healthy Minds programming, implementing an employee assistance program for the health and wellness of staff, science enrichment, strengthening Indigenous education, and bringing gender balance to our Aboriginal Elder program. Enhancing literacy pilot and maintaining student success initiative at Elmwood High School. The board has also addressed aligning its limited resources with student needs. The draft budget includes cost-saving measures related to efficiencies and delivering compulsory high school physical education credits, where students can earn an external high school credit by participating in out-of-school sports activities, moving from a universal subsidy for milk programs and band instrument programs to a needs-based support level. Program life cycle data-driven instruction funds are being retargeted to comprehensive assessment, improvement in business administration, including printer copier lease savings, fees for office information systems, research services, and support for financial controls. Language evaluation and external communications are other areas that we're realigning our resources. The board will continue to review all aspects of the draft budget, your feedback, and the feedback from our communities. And so we thank you for joining us tonight to provide that feedback.
At this point, we will...
The Board of Trustees has developed a draft budget for 2016-2017. In this presentation, we will discuss some of the 2016-2017 budget challenges, revenue and provincial funding, required and proposed expenditures, and property taxation for education.
The board develops the budget based on WSD's guiding principles, which include leading education and innovation, high-quality education, employing competent, qualified, and caring staff, and managing tax dollars responsibly.
Past budgets have responded to changing needs and included expanding WSD full-day kindergarten to 9 schools, adding mental health programs, upgrading school security systems, strengthening Indigenous education support, and building trusting relationships between students and Winnipeg Police Services through the School Resource Officer Program. The board has also invested in technology and business systems to enhance efficient management of the division and help control long-term costs.
The previous 2 budgets for the 2015-16 and 2014-15 school years have seen expenditure growth of 3.6% and 2.5% respectively. While provincial funding increased in both budget years, it was not sufficient to offset the need to increase the special levy, which has increased by 3.2% in 2015 and 3.65% in 2014. The board has addressed a number of challenges in developing the draft budget. Provincial funding is a main factor, and while it increased for 2016-17, it continues to lag behind the increased costs to maintain existing programs and services.
In the draft budget, the board has reviewed and included all current cost savings, expenses, obligations, and commitments, such as negotiated salary increases, increments, and changes in payroll-related benefit rates.
Property taxes are an important source of funding for all school divisions in Manitoba. The funds raised from the school tax levy allows Winnipeg School Division to provide unique programs and services that reflect local needs and priorities. WSD has 2 major sources of funding: the province of Manitoba and the property tax levy. For 2016-2017, provincial funding provides only 61% of the total revenue, while 37% must come from property taxation.
Total revenue from the province of Manitoba to Winnipeg School Division is projected to be $243,048,107. Property taxes required to maintain a balanced budget equal $144,014,193. The remaining 2% of revenues comes from other sources such as the federal government, First Nations, and other school divisions who use WSD resources. Provincial funding for 2016-2017 has increased budget over budget by 1% or $1.9 million, which is less than the actual rate of Winnipeg School Division's required increase. Costs for WSD to continue providing existing programs and services, maintain building, infrastructure, and equipment have increased by 2.3% from the 2015-2016 budget.
81% of the draft budget goes directly to the cost of providing instruction and supports in the classroom. The other 19% covers costs such as student transportation, building maintenance and operations, business administration and support services related to research, planning, and technology. Other mandatory expenses are Canada Pension Plan costs, employment insurance premiums, payroll tax, and the cost of supplies, materials, books, and equipment. The board has approached development of the draft budget with a focus on improving student success, aligning resources with student needs, and seeking efficiencies in business administration.
Improving student success includes adding full-day kindergarten at 4 additional schools, providing bilingual support for the 3 new language programs slated to begin in September 2016, investing in Healthy Minds programming in schools, and implementing an employee assistance program for the health and wellness of support staff, providing enriched learning opportunities through support of the Inner City Science Centre, continuing to strengthen Indigenous education support and bring gender-balanced teaching with the addition of a second division-wide Aboriginal elder position, introducing an enhanced literacy program pilot in high-need schools, and maintaining support for the Student Success Initiative at Elwood High School, which improves student engagement and graduation rates.
The board has also addressed aligning its limited resources with student needs. For example, WSD is seeking efficiencies in delivering compulsory high school phys ed credits, where students are earning an external high school credit by participating in out-of-school sports activities. WSD may save on annual subsidies for in-school phys ed costs. Public education extends beyond the classroom. In schools, WSD ensures support for children, families, and communities through a variety of focused nutrition, outreach, and youth programs. The board is considering moving from a universal subsidy for the milk program and band instrument program to a needs-based support level. WSD has also identified several programs that have reached the end of their life cycle. Funds are being retargeted to data-driven instruction from the Comprehensive Assessment Program.
The board has identified areas of improvement in business administration. These include annual savings on copier lease charges as the result of replacing school and central print copiers this past year, reduced fees for services related to office, information systems, and research, and enhanced support for financial controls, language evaluation, and external communication.
Changes in student demographics results in additional expenditures for education assistance supports and transportation services, including new bus routes. The provincial K-3 20 smaller classrooms initiative has also added extra costs for WSD for more teachers. The total for the 2016-2017 draft budget is $396,529,100. This is an increase of 2.3% over last year's budget. Here you can see the full cost breakout to maintain existing programs and services. Regular instruction, $209,205,850. Student support services, $91,687,650. Community education, $9,955,100. Instructional and other support services, $9,643,900. Division administration is $10,620,500. Transportation of pupils is $6,646,200. Operations and maintenance on 77 schools and other facilities is $49,870,200. Fiscal and capital, such as payroll tax and bank charges, is $8,899,700.
To implement the proposals for consultation, maintain existing programs and services, and achieve a balanced budget, the board proposes a property tax increase of 5%, or $62 per year for the average assessed value of a home in Winnipeg School Division.
Since 2006, the net school tax on an average assessed home in WSD, when the education property tax credit is accounted for, has remained relatively stable. The education property tax credit is currently $700 per owner-occupied home. Seniors are eligible for an additional credit of up to $1,100, and renters are also eligible for a credit through their income tax.
Your opinion counts. On the Winnipeg School Division website, winnipegsd.ca, you will find a link to a survey, a budget simulation tool, which allows you to submit your own suggested budget, and a property tax calculator. You can also submit your comments in writing. Email and address information is available on the WSD website. The Board of Trustees' regular meeting on the budget will be held at 7 p.m. on Monday, February 22nd. To address the board, you must register in advance by contacting 204-789-0469. Please note the registration deadline is noon on February 18th.
Thank you for watching the Winnipeg School Division draft budget presentation for 2016-2017. We look forward to hearing from parents, staff, ratepayers, and the community about the draft budget.
All right, thank you, Trustee Broughton, for your remarks. Registered delegates. Before we hear from the registered delegations, I want to remind everyone that each delegation will have 5 minutes to make a presentation to the board, which will be followed by a maximum of 5 minutes for questions for clarification from trustees. I'd also ask each trustee to limit their initial question to just one, and we'll return to you if time permits within the designated time frame. Please note, we will not entertain motions from the trustees at this meeting. Feedback received tonight will be compiled, and all of the feedback received and presented to the trustees for consideration at the next meeting. So we will begin our list. 4.1, Bernice Rempel, if you can come forward. The problem with the seat, Trustee Babinski, is then she's not on camera. So unfortunately, that wasn't an oversight. That was intentional.
Okay.
Do we have a podium, though? That would probably be a podium.
We have no budget cuts.
To the chair, members of the Winnipeg School Board of Trustees and senior administration of the Winnipeg School Board Division, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Bernice Rempel, and I am the chair of the Parent and Community Advisory Council for St. John's High School. I am here representing the youth, the families, and caregivers, along with our neighbors and partners in the community. You'll note we are not a parent council or a parent advisory council, but a parent and community council. This update was made last year to our mandate as we became more in tune with shared desires to be part of a safe and healthy community. For me personally, I am new to school involvement from a caregiver perspective. I became a caregiver to my nephew, who attends St. John's since the 2014-15 school year. In a very short period of time, I realized my participation in his academic and social life had a direct impact on our life in the community. Being a healthy, supportive, and safe community is making a positive impact on his education. Each aspect contributes to an understanding of the various dynamics that assist in his daily activities, whether in school or in the community. Embracing our entire community as a whole, hearing and learning from each other, sharing resources and strengths is a priority at St. John's. I feel it's important to make you aware of our commitment at the start because it will provide important context to our request for support in the 2016-17 budget and years to come. I would like to commend you all, in particularly you, Finance Chair Broughton, for your hard work and commitment on balancing and prioritizing school and taxpayer concerns. It is a challenge to assess and invest the increasing demands for education, whether it be literacy, programming, salaries, compensation, just to name a few. It is an unenviable task that we thank you for. Our provincial government must also be commended for their continued support and investments as well. With an upcoming provincial election, we hope that this means that whoever forms our next government maintains a leading role in supporting our public schools. You may have noticed in the media lately that St. John's High School is leading the Winnipeg School Division with a project called the Empathy Game. The Empathy Game is a tool to teach participants the difference between sympathy and empathy. And the essence of the game is to help build communication by asking questions to bring understanding among the participants. This project began 3 years ago at St. John's, and since then the school has experienced 85% decrease in reports of bullying incidences. The empathy game was recently introduced at a division-wide symposium for students and administrators. The impact on our community overall is immeasurable. It is about understanding what safety is well. A safe school and a safe community help to make a healthy community. Nearly 2 decades ago, the Winnipeg School Board Division made an important safety capital investment for surveillance cameras in our school, amongst others. The capital cost at that time for St. John's was over $20,000+, a significant investment. We have relied on these cameras both investigatively and preventatively since then. We understand that there are implemental plans in the annual budget for replacing and upgrading computer systems in the division. I don't need to remind you how much technology has changed in the last 2 decades. The cost of ongoing maintenance to keep up with technology is becoming greater as technology advances substantially from one year to the next. Where in the budget is the provision for upgrading and maintaining school surveillance systems within known timelines? With decreasing outside resources and diminishing grants, upgrading surveillance systems is more challenging to access every year. We are asking that you consider implementing the same process for school surveillance systems as you have for computer systems. Money needs to be allocated on a regular basis. The importance of school safety is becoming more and more paramount. Our schools are the very heart of our communities, which is where children and their loved ones spend a minimum of 30 hours a week or 1,500 hours per year. The educational environment needs to be a safe place to work and learn. On behalf of our Parent and Community Advisory Council for St. John's High School, we urge you today to consider including a permanent line item process in your final adopted budget for maintaining and upgrading the school's existing surveillance systems and subsequently provide for annual increases. For your time.
Thank you. Is there any questions, Trustee Broughton?
Thank you very much for your kind words about me, but it's a team sport around here, so I can't take all the credit. My question for you is, are you aware that for the 15-16 school year, this school year, for the budget, the board did approve investing in closed-circuit cameras for schools to improve safety within schools?
I had heard of that, okay. And I understand that, and I'm applauding that and continuing to applaud that. My concern for like St. John's is that the system and the cameras are so outdated, and it's like when you look at some of the pixels on the resolution of the cameras, you can't tell who you're looking at. And when you're looking at stuff to prevent and stuff to investigate, it's very hard to do when you can't see faces on the camera. So it's like, you know, I understand that there's that process throughout the school division, but we need to also look at how do we keep maintaining and upgrading that like you have in your computer systems.
Okay, so just one last question. Even if we used a needs-based model of assessing, you know, the division's CCTV program and replacing as necessary, you're suggesting that St. John's High School specifically has a need, and that's something you'd like addressed in this budget. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Babinski.
All right. So more so, I'd like for you to be able to answer some questions for me so we can really get the gist of what's happening. And I'm guessing there's probably maybe 20, 30 cameras in the school?
I believe it was 16.
16, okay, 16. And out of those 16, there are some that are not working.
Yes, this is correct.
So never mind the pixels, there's nothing there.
Yes.
So that should be fixed.
Yes.
So, and I believe you're not the only school that we have cameras in that are not working. I've heard this before.
Okay.
I'd be interested in having a picture of one of these cameras just to see the resolution. You know, if you could provide that to the board so we could actually see what type of picture this is. I also understand, and you may or may not know this, but one of the most expensive things about these cameras is running the wires. And that's already installed. I don't think there's anything wrong with the wires.
Probably not.
So that's the most expensive thing. Just some of these cameras need to be replaced and maintained.
Yes.
Okay, and you're asking us not only to address St. John's, but maybe look at all the other schools as well.
Yes.
But more so St. John's.
Let's start with us.
Okay.
Being a little selfish.
Thank you very much. And I think this goes very well with the front cover of our draft budget where it says past investments in school video surveillance. This takes up a good chunk of our flyer here, our brochure. So hopefully we can do something there. Thank you for the presentation and everybody else that followed you here today.
Am I able to address something?
Sure, go ahead.
When you were asking about the cameras and the clarity,
Yeah.
I was in the school office today working on some stuff, and I happened to see both TVs, and it's like it's so grainy. And the top TV screen had 9 different pictures. The bottom, I'd have to say, was between 9 and 12, and there was at least 4 of them that were blank because there was no data. So, I mean, I can see from myself being at the school that it's needed.
Is there any further questions for this delegate? Thank you. Number 2, Terry Clifford.
Sure. Mr. Clifford, they're telling me to remove the chair.
All right.
Chair, I would prefer a pedestal here. I'm getting to an age where my hand trembles, and I'd like to be able to rest that if you could make a note of it.
I will.
Because I will be back next year if you don't do as I wish. Anyway, I am here to speak about the importance of early childhood programs. You'll all be familiar with the research of the Perischool Project, the Chicago Longitudinal Study, the Abecedarian Program, as well as Head Start and similar programs. They have long established the importance of providing programs for the young that are based on play and experiential learning. They have established the facts that programs for the young can lead to positive outcomes for youth and adults that result in better lives at less cost to the public purse. Over time, some research shows that for each $1 spent, there is a return of $7. Other higher figures do exist. There have been follow-up studies done on all these programs which support the original conclusions. Now, I know some of you have got your own copies. I've got large print, so I'll be turning pages at a different time than you, so don't worry about that. Large-scale public preschool programs can have substantial impacts on children's early learning. A recent analysis of 84 preschool programs concluded that, on average, children gain about 1/3 of a year of additional learning across language, reading, and mathematical skills. Other preschool systems in the US have produced larger gains of between 1/2 and full year of additional achievement in reading and maths. Benefits to the children's socioeconomic development and health have been documented in programs that focus extensively on these areas, and the references given there. Quality preschool education can benefit middle-class children as well as disadvantaged children, typically developing children, as well as children with special needs, dual language learners, as well as native speakers. And if anybody is offended by the native speakers, I'm using a direct quotation. Although early research focused only on programs for low-income children, more recent research focusing on universal preschool programs provide evidence that preschool can benefit children from middle-income as well as low-income families. Middle-class children can benefit substantially, and the benefits outweigh the costs from middle school income as well as those from low-income families. However, children from low-income backgrounds do benefit more. The scientific basis for quality pre-K is impressive. It is well established that for the first 5 years are a time of rapid development that is especially sensitive to a child's experience. It is equally well established that some children have far less optimal conditions for their development, and that the least access to good education by children whose parents have the lowest income and education. This supports the idea that universal programs are more effective than targeted programs, and that nursery programs should be available to all areas of the division, not just in areas judged to have greater needs than others. The most important aspect of quality in preschool education are the stimulating and supportive interactions between children and effective use of criteria. Children benefit most when teachers engage in stimulating interactions that support learning and are emotionally supportive. These interactions help children acquire new knowledge and skills, provide input to children, elicit verbal responses and reactions from them, and foster engagement in and enjoyment of learning, all of which provides a substantial boost to the children's learning. I would like to recognize that in 2005, the Winnipeg School Division did create a guide for nursery teachers called Start with the Child. And this document itself provides guidance and advice of best practice for teachers working in nursery programs. A growing literature establishes that early childhood environments impact substantially on later life outcomes. There is a new and growing understanding of how a few hours per day of preschool at ages 3 and 4 and a curriculum that promotes social competency, planning and organization can significantly and beneficially affect life outcomes. Long-term benefits occur despite convergences of test scores. As children from low-income families in preschool evaluation studies are followed into elementary school, differences between the two who received preschool and those who did not on tests of academic achievement are reduced. That is, academic achievement. However, evidence from long-term evaluations of both small-scale intensive interventions and Head Start suggest that there are long-term effects on important societal outcomes, such as high school graduation, years of education completed, earnings, reduced time, teen pregnancy, and even test score effects, even after the test score effects decline to 0. Research is now underway focusing on why these long-term effects occur, even when the test scores converge. Recently, there has been research which would seem to say that by grade 5 also the disadvantages have, quote, caught up. But that catch-up is in the academic domain. Education is so much more than, quote, the 3 R's. Increasingly, we are being made aware of the importance of social, emotional support and the necessity of helping children learn to become self-regulating and empathetic towards others. Preschool programs have shown to be instrumental in the support of this development, and academic growth is important, but there are other aspects of development that are crucial in helping children become contributing and responsible members of society. At this time, of course, at this time of year, there is always pressure on trustees to, quote, save money, to keep budget increases small, and that is reasonable. However, there are fixed expenses and optional expenses. As an optional program, locally funded, nursery is always vulnerable. Rather than considering it an option, it would be better to consider it as a necessary program. Early childhood education, called it preschool or nursery, is a necessary program provided to young children. It provides a start on which all other programs are built. And I say that as a high school mathematics teacher who are probably the most insular people on God's earth. The whole education base relies on a strong foundation. The Winnipeg School Division is to be commended on having provided universal nursery programs for decades in all schools. That it is not funded by the provincial government of any political stripe is to their shame. I am concerned that there may have been some ideas of making some changes in the area of early childhood education by the school division. These changes might include offering nursery only in some schools, replacing nursery with full-day kindergarten in some schools, continuing with nursery but providing full-day kindergarten. There are all sorts of combinations possible. Full-day kindergarten is commendable, though the research is not clear on how long-lasting the benefits are, though it does indicate social, emotional, and other advantages. It is funded provincially, of course, for half-days only, and the additional expense of a full-day program must be provided from the division resources. And I am concerned that some of these resources may come from those used for nursery or may require increases in taxes, which I and my family would fully support if that were to be necessary. My purpose in coming today to speak to you is to underline the importance of the Winnipeg School Division Nursery Program. Quality preschool education is an investment in our future. The research supports a universal preschool program rather than targeting programs, and I urge you to continue providing nursery in all the Winnipeg School Division. On the back there is a reference, or several references, some of which are very detailed, and I do understand the pressure of time on you on this one. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. Trustee Broughton.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I do very much appreciate your coming down and providing us with your expertise and thoughts on this area. I personally, as an individual trustee, agree with you that the nursery program is very much a necessary program. And I don't see any hints of that changing. A couple questions for you. Recently, the provincial government announced a pilot project that look at school divisions running early childhood education and daycare programs within the school division. Would you see that as an opportunity, as long as there's no downloading of costs, to further enhance our early childhood education programs, which would include nursery and full-day kindergarten?
As a concept, yes, because a child is a continuum, and so should their education be. One of the things that I did not include in this, but would be a major effect, and this, if you look at the countries that are doing this well, all the research indicates good program, first-class teachers who are paid well. You've only got to look down to the states of some of the pay scales down there, and I have in the past, which are unmitigated disasters. You've got to have the right people doing it. One of the problems I see, and I'm speaking very personally now, is the gap in income between a daycare worker who earns half of nothing, and then the next year the child goes into a public school where the teachers are well qualified in the first place, paid reasonably, despite what the WTA people, my former friends, would say about that, but in the scheme of things relative to that. So it's a simple question. It would be expensive if it is going to be done properly. And that's the first essence. It's got to be done properly. But the continuum is a good idea.
All right, my next question is, I'm kind of concerned with your, maybe I'll say lukewarm thoughts on full-day kindergarten. One would surmise that a child being 1 year older, that the benefits of a nursery program, early childhood education, a quality program as you suggest, wouldn't necessarily diminish with a full-day kindergarten program. So I'm concerned, and maybe you can elaborate more on some of your concerns about full-day kindergarten, because I see a lot of the same elements that what you discuss in nursery programming are bearing fruit in full-day kindergarten programs.
Maybe I haven't made myself clear. I'm not against full-day kindergarten programs. It's where you're going to get the money for it and your limited resources. In other words, if you say, well, if you get full-day kindergarten, then you can't have, then I have a major problem. If you were to start at kindergarten, that kind of delay, I think, will be an unmitigated disaster, because I could come the next year and say, okay, didn't need nursery this year, you don't need kindergarten, we'll start them in grade 1. That obviously is in nobody's mind, but don't misunderstand my statement. No, the idea of a full day kindergarten on top of nursery, yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Trustee Klajncar.
For the presentation, I believe I asked a similar question last year when this topic came up. If it was a choice between going to all of our kindergartens being full day and cutting nursery, you are saying that you would not want that. You would definitely want the nursery, correct?
If you were to go that route, I would work very hard in your constituency at the next election.
And on that topic, then, I'm wondering if you have had a chance to go through any of the data in here to show what perhaps the difference is between nurseries and daycares. I know one of the big ones is at a daycare they get, I think it's 8 kids per one educator, one supervisor, whatever you call it. Once they hit our nursery programs as well as our kindergarten, that number goes up quite substantially. And is there any correlation to the advantages of having a nursery type program and the number of students per instructor? And would it be a preference to actually have more like the daycare numbers in the nurseries and have that more of a daycare program as opposed to a nursery? Is there a difference between the daycare and the nursery that you're aware of?
No, it's a pity my wife isn't here because she is the expert in this domain, as a chief superintendent will agree. No, I don't. But obviously, class size is an interesting debate. Certainly, if you've seen photographs of African schools with 100 kids, that is not workable. On the other hand, you don't have a class if you've only got 3 kids. I once taught a high school maths program with 4 kids, which was fine because it was worth a full teacher at that time. But that is too small. So where is the balance? And I think it has to be, in some manner, and I don't know the numbers, an ascending number over time. But, you know, even a high school program with 30 kids in it is not particularly viable.
Thank you. I got you. That's good.
Trustee Babinski?
Yeah, thanks. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Mike.
I've heard you for over 20 years. And you come every year, and it's the same topic. It's nursery and how you support it. And I've heard discussions around this table about going from half-day nursery to no, cutting back to 2-3 days, per week, and it's occurred. And there's different years, different things happen. But one of the most recent topics that I've been listening to is full day, whether it's nursery or kindergarten. And it looks like the target these days is kindergarten, starting off with full day kindergarten. How would you feel about full day nursery?
My immediate reaction, with only gut feelings to react, is that I think a slower integration is better. With my own personal background, this is in the UK back in the 40s, so I know that's a different history. But my birthday was in December. I didn't start in September. I started in January when I hit the particular age. And maybe a different consideration will be to have children coming in continuously during the year, so that when they got to an age or development, then they could join. But I don't have any further opinions. I don't have any real knowledge in that area.
Okay, maybe next year, or maybe the next time I bump into you, you can look into that a little bit more, because your passion is for nursery. And discussions are amongst parents. Some parents think full-day kindergarten, for example, is even too much for young kids. And I've always said it should be a choice. It should be a choice when they're that young. But nursery, is that pushing kids too far to go to school for an entire day?
If you're going to have the sort of situation, and it comes back to the comment made over here, or about the continuance, then you are going to have to look at things quite differently. You'd need a different structured day. You would need rest time for the kids and all those things that go along with it, and all those kinds of supports.
Thank you for considering.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Trevor.
Good job, Gerry.
Number 3, Bromley, Basford. I'll ask again, Bromley, Basford? No? You know? Okay. I guess we'll move on. Gerry, Finkle. I don't know if people can hear me. Gerry, Finkle. Guess this evening's going quick.
There's nobody waiting out there, is there?
No? All right. Number 5 is withdrawn.
5 and 6.
5 and 6 are withdrawn. Dave Heaney. Is there a Dave Heaney? Mr. Heaney.
President of the Parent Council at Rempel. And my question is, how come everybody I've talked to, the parents, are all actually opposed to this all-day kindergarten? We have a nursery program, but we have no bilingual nursery. I'd like to know how come we can get funding for all-day kindergarten, but nothing for bilingual nursery.
Sorry, bilingual
Nurseries.
nursery. Okay. Is that everything you wanted to come say?
Yeah.
All right. Is there any questions?
Sure.
Trustee Babinski.
So and why would you say that? Is it because kids will go register at other schools and not go to Ralph Brown and then start going to another school?
No, it's just that we've had parents question us why we cannot start their kids, like we're Ukrainian English, why they cannot start nursery with Ukrainian, have to start in English, and then when they go into kindergarten, they're switched over to Ukrainian. And the people, or the parents have asked me why that is.
So you think it's a good idea for bilingual programs to be able to start by as early as nursery?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And also you've had discussions, another topic is full-day nursery is not a hot topic around the coffee machine.
No, neither is all-day kindergarten.
So all-day kindergarten is not a positive item.
No.
Do you have,
From the response I got to the parents I've talked to, no.
do you have a full-day kindergarten program in your school?
No.
Do you think there would be people that would want, a certain percentage would want to have a full
Well,
day?
like I said, the ones I have talked to, they're not for it.
Okay. I've heard that as well.
They figure that grade 1 is soon enough to start an all day.
But there must be some people that like it because otherwise there wouldn't be full classrooms and a waiting list. Thank you very much.
Trustee Klajncar.
I was just trying to look up an email exchange that I actually had on the bilingual nursery in the past, and I'm unable to find it right now. But it was a question that has been brought forward in the past, as there are some nurseries offered in language programs, but not all of them, and it is definitely something that perhaps could be reviewed. And I thank you very much for bringing it forward. I really do. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Sorry. No, apologize. You got Trustee Broughton wants to ask you some questions.
I appreciate you coming and asking your question tonight. We're not necessarily set up all that well for a Q&A session in how our procedures are laid out. But I would really like the opportunity to further discuss this with you. So maybe after we're done, I can get your contact information so that we can flesh this out a little further and get your feedback. My question for you would be, if there is a modest cost to this idea, would you support the possibility that a property tax increase may be necessary to fund a program like that, whether it's full-day kindergarten or enhancing our nursery programs? Would you support a tax increase to support those programs, those initiatives? Okay, thank you very much for your...
All right. Thank you. Sorry, Trustee Beach.
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Heaney, for coming to talk about this. I had a question. I know you were very short when you started. You sort of had a question for us. Why don't we have it? And I'm a little intrigued by the question because it's come up recently from parent council at another school, a school in my ward, in fact. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was hoping, can you tell me and maybe my colleagues here why you place an importance on a French bilingual nursery? Like, why is that an important thing to have? I just want to understand. Bilingual.
Ukraine.
He represents a school with Ukrainian bilingual.
I'm sorry, I'm good. Thanks.
I have one more question if I could.
All right, Trustee Babinski.
I've heard this from other parents as well. At the North District Advisory, when the question period was open to the general public, there were some parents that stood up and shared the same feelings as you did. Now, just a hypothetical question, I'm going along with what you're saying here. If the day did eventually come to a school, not necessarily yours, but say another bilingual school, and they had a choice to either go full-day kindergarten or maybe bring in a bilingual nursery program. Do you think the choice would be a good idea for the parents to decide for their school, or should head office just implement what they think is best for that community?
Well, like I said, the parents I've talked to, they're not for the all-day kindergarten, but they are for the bilingual programs.
Okay. Thanks for answering.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for attending tonight. All right. Number 9, feedback from the floor. We will now spend approximately 1/2 hour.
Hold on, we're not finished. We have 4.8. Sharon Machinski from System. 4.8.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I see it. Sorry. Ms. Machinski, if you can come forward, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to see you tonight. I am here on behalf of the Clifford Community Access Program and also St. John's Community Access Program. Currently, there are several students within the division who have limited mobility and or non-weight bearing and rely on wheelchairs for their mobility. These students are at a disadvantage to their peers who are mobile. There are many initiatives within the school division and the Department of Education to provide inclusive education for all students. But without transportation, this is not possible when transitioning students from school to community and to adulthood. In order for the Community Access Program at Wasyliw to fully develop the potential of all students need to be a part of an inclusive community setting outside of the school to develop social skills, community awareness, pre-employment skills, and in later years explore adult day programs during the transition process. All too often, non-ambulatory students get left behind in their classrooms as there are no means of transportation available for them. Limited transportation budgets, the costs associated with private wheelchair companies, the use of Winnipeg Transit, and the time restraints involved in transit, Winnipeg's winter weather, and the location of Wasyliw High School all hinder community access. And once again, the community access again is also at St. John's. At a cost of $50 to $100 per trip per student for private transportation through Handy Helper, if you're available to get to bus stop safely through the cold sidewalks, one is not guaranteed a spot when the bus arrives. If wheelchair spaces are occupied, the bus leaves you waiting for the next one. Depending on the time of day, an additional 30 to 45-minute wait may occur, resulting in missed transportation from school to home at the end of the school day. This also limits the number of students who can travel together, which also can be a safety issue. Most adult day programs want students to arrive by 9:30 in the morning so they can actively participate in the activities. This is not possible if you take transit. Imaginability is an inclusive work placement for students in the division, but has relocated and now requires Wasyliw students to take 3 buses to get to their new location. This winter, students in wheelchairs were unable to attend their community placements for 3 weeks due to bad sidewalks. There are also limited placements, work sites, volunteer placements within walking distance to Wasyliw High School. And then again, I'm also assuming at St. John's. There is nowhere within the local area for students to go to achieve their transition planning goals without transportation. This is why I'm here tonight asking for the purchase of an adapted van for the Wasyliw Community Access Program and St. John's. I was recently quoted a price of $65,000 for a van that's converted with 3 wheelchair spots, and the van also has spots for the educational assistants. These vans would not require a special license for the driver, and after the initial purchase, auto pack and fuel would be the yearly cost. It would be very proactive to compare the cost of using current transportation, such as staff vehicles, transit, and private companies, such as Handy Helper, to the use of having a program van. Students in auto shops would be able to do maintenance after the warranty on the vehicle's side. Students in the community access program could do general cleaning and take pride in ownership of the vehicle. For the safety of the vehicle, it could be parked within the school at night. If the purchase of a school van is not possible, then a closer look at the allocation of funds should be a priority and put into transportation so that all students have access to a successful transition into the community. In closing, I would like to recognize the Winnipeg School Division's mission statement and two of the guiding principles. The mission of Winnipeg School Division is to provide a learning environment that promotes and fosters the growth of each student's potential and provides an opportunity for the individual student to develop the knowledge, skills, and values necessary for meaningful participation in global and diverse society. The two guiding principles I would like to highlight is that Winnipeg School Division believes in the equality, worth, potential, and dignity of all individuals, and also will advocate on behalf of students to ensure appropriate care and support services are provided for all children. Finally, from the Manitoba Education document Bridging to Adulthood, the protocol for transitioning students with exceptional needs from school to community. It's on page 29, inclusive community-based approach. No matter how intense and complex the needs of a student are, everyone has the right to be included as part of the community as students and into adult life. For students with exceptional needs, limited experiences in community and lack of contact with peers will be an indicator of limited potential for inclusive community life. It is important for students to be a part of inclusive communities inside and outside of school so they can reach their goals in areas such as social relationships and employment. In inclusive schools, transition planning should facilitate inclusive experiences and instruction for a student with exceptional needs as much as possible.
Thank you. Trustee Naylor.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm wondering if you can tell us, do you have a sense of what the current annual transportation costs are within your school? No? Okay, thank you. And you mentioned, it's in the written notes, but I don't know if you said it, that you talked about these vans. Are you thinking of a purchase of two vans versus?
Once I started doing this presentation, I had the opportunity to speak with St. John's administration at the North District meeting, and they were very interested as well.
So you would think a van per school?
Yes.
And a van that accommodated 3 students in wheelchairs, how many students are in wheelchairs currently?
Right now, we have 5 that are in wheelchairs.
Okay.
But you also have the students who have limited mobility who also depend on walkers or other supports to get around.
Right. So with a van with 3 seats, like just maybe explain to me how that would work for a particular outing, or are they on different schedules?
Well, some of it would be different schedules. Some would be able to support, for instance, one of the students in Sicily right now wanted to do a day program downtown in a wheelchair. He can't get there. So with different programs also have different days. Some students just go once a week, some go twice a week. So it would be part of the school teacher to best assign the use of the van to what students at what point.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Broughton.
Thank you for your presentation. It's a very intriguing idea, and some of the information you provide here actually concerns me greatly about waits on the street or on sidewalks of 30 to 45 minutes due to no resources or a lack of resources for transportation. That does concern me. I do see an opportunity here. There has been some rumblings amongst my peers to look at transportation as a big picture, do a kind of a complete review and consult with the community, as it's an area that is ballooning in costs for us. There's been significant changes in our transportation system over the years, and it's amounting to be a major cost issue for us. I see an opportunity here to at least even look at a pilot and maybe partner with other levels of government, the City of Winnipeg, the Province of Manitoba, to look at a pilot and look at a program like this. I see a great deal of merit. Would you, in the community you represent, be open to a pilot as well as a fulsome, comprehensive review of transportation and some consultation with you directly as a part of that process?
Absolutely. The only thing is with these vans, like once you purchase them, it takes 3 months to get them converted. So they have to go down to the States. It's no longer done up in Canada. So if we are looking to do something for September, it's something we will have to act on quickly. The only conversions that are now done in Winnipeg are the ones from the back of a van, which limits how many students you can get into van. I think you can only get on one, but don't quote me on that one. It's the side entrance to the van where you get the front passenger and 2 in the middle, and then they leave you the back seat.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that knowledge, and I thank you for your presentation.
I have a speaker's list. It's Trustee Klajncar, Babinski, and then Collins.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Certainly brought up a lot of questions. I'm deeply concerned of one of the points you have here. In the winter, the students were unable to attend their community placements for 3 weeks. And I'm assuming that means because you can't actually exit the school, go down that one street and get to Burroughs even? Is that
Get to Fred Douglas Lodge.
to even get to Fred Douglas Lodge?
Fred Douglas Lodge.
That's absolutely ridiculous. It's a great thing we actually have a member of council who is the liaison with school boards, and perhaps that's something we can definitely bring up. I would suggest that's something we could maybe bring up that way. I think what Trustee Naylor was getting at as well, and the question I have, is a 3-seat one enough?
You want to give me a bigger one?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because there are the wheelchair accessible school buses that perhaps are an option as well. And I'm just wondering if any of those options were looked at, or is it that 3 really is enough because a lot of them, they would be going to Fred Douglas or closer, that they could get on one transit bus and travel a few blocks or whatever.
Right, and then also once you have your own located at school, you can take 3 students out at 9 o'clock and come back at say 9:30 to take the other ones.
Right.
So it's all scheduling. I mean, personally, I feel a 3-seater would be perfect.
Right.
Because then again, you're not dealing with to getting special driver's license to operate the vehicle, extra insurance. This would be more like just having students who are ambulatory getting into their EA's vehicles and be taken to their placements.
Interesting. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Trustee Bibbins.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for your opinions. They're always appreciated. Play structures, to busing, to swimming, and all the other good ideas that you bring forward. So thank you. I've had many opinions on transportation in the last few years. But one opinion I do have is helping people with limited access. And I stand right next to you and try and help some of these kids. I got no problem doing that. I think, would you agree it's a good idea to have some discussion, some cost analysis, to take a look at, a small van or truck may be better for accessibility than a 10 unit. And then you also have to consider, well, the kids may be waiting a couple of hours by the time they get on the bus, trying to move around, and it's not as quickly loading up wheelchair accessible people as it would be kids that would just run on the bus that have that access. Thank you very much. But one question I'd like to ask you, and I've noticed this going to schools, and maybe some of the trustees that are new on the board, they may have not had the privilege yet to do it, and I'm sure they will in time, is I'll go to some schools and very few handicap, special ed, people with physical disabilities, very few students. And then other schools, it seems like there may be a dozen or more. It's like some schools almost specialize and have a lot of extra equipment, and they're lucky to have that. And so parents hear about it and they want to go to that school. Some schools might be Prairie Roads, for example. You have a lot of funding in that school for students. Now, so some of this transportation that you're talking about, I think has been overlooked in the past. I think it's a good idea to talk more about it, and and if the chair of finance or any other trustees or administration, want to give you a call or come down to a committee meeting, I think that would be the right direction. But you're really gung-ho at looking at something for September. The wheels around here sometimes don't move as quick as we want them to. And what about other districts? You haven't really mentioned, you mentioned St. John's, I mentioned Prairie Rose, but that's only 1/4 of the
Yeah, but then we're going from senior high to elementary, though.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there. The elementary kids aren't really getting out into the community. If they are, they're going out as part of class field trips. Right? It's not for work experience and life skills and whatever. So again, at senior high, especially at Sisler, your numbers are so high. So yeah, you are going to have a higher number of students because there's no other place for them to go.
Right. Okay. And one or two more questions. The question again I have is: are there any other comparables that you've heard other divisions may have, whether it's in Winnipeg or other cities, where they're helping transport people with disabilities, physical disabilities, in this age group?
No, my concern right now has only been within our division, our students, our communities. I haven't had the time to research other divisions, if they are or aren't.
I'm just wondering if other programs like this are happening throughout the world, in the U.S., Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary.
I guess, again, I'm not really necessarily looking for programs. I'm looking what the division is highlighting as what is important to students through your mission statement, and also what the Department of Ed is putting out as what's important. So, I mean, I'm considering if we actually get this committee going, we can look at the department to get some support for this as well. Because even when it comes to physical activities, which kids in the wheelchairs really need, if you can't get out of the school, you're not going to get out. You need to be able to access the extra swimming classes when the swimming program ends. You need to be able to get out and get the fresh air. And you can't. If you can't get into somebody's vehicle, you're stuck.
What about the buses that we do have right now? Would any of those work?
Give us more money in the transportation budget.
Or access those buses, if they're available?
If they're available.
Okay.
And, I mean, on a side note, I have concerns about the wheelchair buses we have because the wheelchair placements are all up front. The EAs who are on the bus to help support the kids who have health needs are at the back. So you could have a kid having a seizure in the front and you're not going to know about it till you get to school.
I see.
So something has to be looked at on how these buses are set up and the placements.
And the way they're built.
Yep.
I see. Very good. I'll make a note of saying that when we do order new buses, or maybe we could redevelop them to be more safety conscious. Thank you, as always.
Trustee Collins.
Have you had an opportunity to read the Accessibility for Manitobans Act? Okay, well, I think you should read it and be aware of it, because what you're saying is exactly the kind of thing that act is looking at to make society more inclusive for everyone. In every public sector, including the schools and places like where I work, the Winnipeg Art Gallery, has to do an audit of all the things that are making things inaccessible. So certainly what you're talking about is exactly the kind of thing that we'd be including. It might not happen immediately, but it will. We have to look at it across the entire division. So I appreciate you making us think along those lines, that we should be looking at our student numbers, the ones that are in wheelchairs. So we have an inventory of exactly what we need. Thank you.
Thank you for attending tonight. Number 9, feedback from the floor. We'll now spend approximately 1/2 hour for feedback from those in the gallery who do not pre-register to appear before the board tonight. A reminder that a maximum of 2 minutes will be allowed for each speaker from the floor. The purpose of this session is to receive your feedback regarding the budget. We're not here to engage in any debates. We ask those wishing to speak to come forward. We indicate that you'll be asking each speaker to give their name, address, and affiliation with the division, whether you're a parent, a resident, a taxpayer, or part of an employee group. So all those wishing to speak, please come forward. Trustee Babinski.
Maybe at the end, Chair, if you could see if any of the delegations that we missed earlier showed up.
Okay, fair enough. I will do that. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board off the floor? Going once. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening, and particularly thank the presenters. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Babinski, I will go through. Is there a Bromley Basford here? Is there a Gerry Finkle here? Okay, that's it?
That's sir.
All right, so...
Chair, if we could acknowledge the students from Red River as well.
I have done so. And once I finish my closing remarks, we will be taking a break between our public session and our in-camera session. There's some members of the media here tonight. There's Red River community students here. You'll have access to the trustees if you want to interview them. They're very generous with their time, and they would love to speak with you. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening, and particularly the presenters for their comments. I want to thank the administration for their work in preparing the budget, and the trustees take into consideration all this feedback that we've received before the budget is finalized. In making decisions regarding the final budget, the trustees will balance the needs of the division as a whole, as well as the impact on property taxes. The budget must be finalized, and notice of division special levy requirements be submitted to the city by March 15, 2016. And so with that, we will be entering into business matters as defined into Rule 43.7, moved by Trustee Klajncar, second by Trustee Friedman, that the board move into business matters as defined in Rule 43.7. All those in favor?
I just have one quick thing.
Sure.
And just another reminder, the survey as well as the budget tool are available online. Please, this video is available online as well. Please go and check them out, fill it out, and that is another way to give us additional feedback if you haven't already.
All right, so all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Trustees will have a 10-minute recess so they can speak to the students. Thank you.